So that's when I asked. I remember we were in Dar es Salaam. We were on the port trying to get a ferry to go to Pemba. And I asked her, but Mom, tell me something. Why am I strange? And I could see when I remember I looked at my mother and like, this time she was desperate to tell me and say, please, can you not interfere with where we're going? Please don't interfere. So like to convince me not to interfere, my powers, the power I had as a boy, for where we're going. So she had to tell me the story of my life. How she ended up in this. So this is what she tells me. She says, when she got married the reason she married my father, because her father had died and her father was a rich chief and she was the only daughter and she had a brother, my uncle then. And when her father died, she says she knew the family in Africa, most times the family would take over every property. So she needed protection. So, by the grace of God, she says, at the time when her father died and she's desperate, she's just a young lady, then my father started dating her. And my father, coming from a prominent family, a very known family and very strong, she thought this man, if he marries her, she'll get protection. So she gets into the family. Now, my father also was marrying her because he had been told he would find a young girl, marry early, and get as many children as possible. Because my father, being a son of a chief, son of like a prime minister, he was the only son. The brother had died. He had 7 sisters, the only son. So they were like, now you need to get a woman, get children, and raise a heir for the throne, like the chiefdom. So he marries for the purpose of getting a son. So when she married, my father and my mother, they married, she gave birth. The first child was a girl. The second child, also a girl. The third child, also a girl. Now, by the fourth child, the entire family, the chiefs, the tribe, they're all like, this woman is a waste. Because in my tribe, if you have only girls, they say you don't have children.
Wow.
So they wanted a heir. So in desperation, she went different witch doctors in different parts of the nation. And so she went, they told her, we're going to help you conceive. Then she conceived the 5th child, who was now also a girl. She went on different witch doctors, different altars, and also she conceived again a 6th child, also a girl. And she tells me that she was so desperate because she knew if she can't get a son, she will lose the marriage, and now her life will be wasted. Though at that time, she told me that someone told her that there is someone who can help her conceive a son. She had gone to all kinds of altars in Uganda and outside Uganda. She had traveled different parts and gave different sacrifices. She had the money. She could sell her properties to travel different places to help her conceive. So on this particular journey where she went, she was told to go to a forest in Tanzania. There's a place in Tanzania, northern Tanzania. There was a place. So she went there and she realized that when she arrived at the place, they told her she had to undress and live in the forest for 7 days, going through cleansing.
Wow.
Before she appears before the person to help her. Now, before there's something I want us to note here, that was the king of darkness. But they understand the principle of consecration and cleansing. Now I understand after that. So they tell her you have to undress, stay in the forest, cold, don't eat anything cooked for 7 days. So after the 7 days, you are clean enough to appear before this priest who was going to help her. So she says when she appeared after 7 days, that this priest was a woman who always lived in the forest. And she was like the chief witch of the entire continent. Because all the witch doctors...
I mean, the entire country.
Of Africa. not continent.
Wait, she was the chief witch of the entire continent of Africa.
Of Africa. So
wow.
all the witches or the wizards or the sorcerers or the politicians, the leaders could go to her for powers. So she lived in the forest, that woman, that priest, and she had only one breast, like one breast in the middle of the chest.
So all the people that went to her to see her often went through similar rituals.
Similar
They
rituals.
have to stay in the forest for 7 days.
Naked.
Eating leaves and
fruits for 7 days. Wow. And then after 7 days, you appear before her. That was the ritual. And it was like everyone had to go through that. So there were many people there. So she said when she appeared, when she came to her, she looked at that witch, that priest looked at my mother and said, "Go away. I will not help you." So she has been in the forest for 7 days. And now she's walking away. She says this. Now, this is what she told me. She said, as she was going away, she looked in the sky and saw a sign, something that told her that she has a son. She doesn't know what told. So she walks back to the place where they register. And she tells them, "Please, I want to go and try again." Then they tell her, "But also, if you try again, you have to go again through another 7 days." Now, the 7 days she went through, and then she went another 7 days, that's 14 days. Later, I'll be sharing with you, when I was sick, my deliverance, I had to go through the same cycle of being delivered. The 7 days and another 7 days, but now in the church setting. Because I want to tell people that salvation is free, but deliverance is a price. A price of consecration and being set apart. So she says that, so the second time, the next 7 days, she goes to appear. And when the priestess saw her, said, "You are back. You are back." Then my mother tells me, said, "Okay, I'm back, but you need to help me." Then this woman looks at her and says, "Well, I can help you, but I can see." Now, I don't know what eye they were using. I can see in the spirit, you have a son. But he's very far in the rocks.
He's very far in the rocks.
In the rocks. Now, that's the statement of my mother. He's far in the rocks. And there is a strange star on him. If I bring him out, he will be a problem to our powers. The only thing I can do, if you can offer sacrifices, but also if you can accept the condition we shall give you. So my mother asked, what sacrifice? They told her I have to give 7 cows for 9 months. That is 63 cows as a sacrifice. Wow. Then say, "Okay, I'll do that." Because she was desperate and she had the means. Then they tell her, okay,
7 cows every month for 9 months.
For 9 months. That is 63. So then the other condition was, okay, if you conceive and give birth, and this is a boy, you promise you will offer him to that woman, the princess, as a husband. She didn't know what it means. She didn't know what it meant. First tells me she didn't know that it was that. And then they told her that, okay, when you give birth, you must bring that child to the forest before the end of the first day. In other words, before the sun goes over him. She tells me she didn't know what was involved in. So she left, offered the sacrifice, returned home, she conceived. To her surprise, she gave birth to a boy. Now, the vow was to carry that boy from the city where she gave birth to the forest around 300 and maybe 400 kilometers away from the city. And that is 1975. The transport means was not that good. I don't know how she traveled. So she travels from the city in Kampala to go to fulfill the vow. What shocked her, she tells me, when she arrived at the forest, this time she didn't go through the ritual, but there was like a wedding. Hundreds of people were gathered. They knew she was coming. Gathered for what? And she realized it was now going to be the wedding of her 1-day-old son and the 60-year-old woman.
So, for those of you watching, I don't know if you understand what he's just said. On the day he was born, on the day you were born, You were married to
A 60-year-old witch.
a 60-year-old witch that was the Grand Master Witch for the continent of Africa. That is mind-blowing.
And you know what she told me, the wedding was conducted by the witches of the continent first, and then the bishop of the diocese also came and conducted the wedding between this 1-day-old boy and a 60-year-old woman in the forest.
Wow.
So, that was also when she told me, I said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yes." Bishop so-and-so, which I knew. Later I'll share how he got involved in my life. And now he moved me from that same bishop, from the witchcraft to the occult, because they are different. So for her, when she reached there were all these people, the celebrations from different parts of the continent had come to the forest for the wedding. Now, according to her, that was the moment where this woman, the witch, was to transfer her powers to the boy, the 1-day-old boy. Now, I was 1-day-old. I didn't know what was happening. So after the ritual, after the ceremony, days of celebration and conducted the covenant and all the sacrifices. So they tell her, you know what? Now, this child is not just a child. This is now a man. So you're not going to breastfeed him because now he is somebody's husband already.
Wow.
And she told me that in her mind, she said, well, okay, I'll go home. These people will not be there. I have to breastfeed my child. You know, I've suffered a lot. I've paid the price. I have done all this. Like he was treasuring this child. So she returns home. When she went home, my father said, "Where have you been?" He said, "Okay, I had all this and this."
So did your father not know what she was doing?
He didn't know.
He did not know.
He didn't know. Because when she left hospital, she just went to so my father, "Where's my wife?" She's looking around. So when she appears, "Where have you been?"
So he had no idea that she was this deep in her passion to find a boy or to get a son.
He didn't. The only thing he knew, my mother could disappear for days, and you know where he has gone. So when she returned home, she says, "I was a baby. She put me in the baby cot in the bed, then go dress up, clean up, and then come and breastfeed the child." And when she returned, she found a python coiled around the baby. Yeah, python.
Yeah.
And she says she could not come near because of the python. So she ran out. The people of the village came around. My father came around. They could see the snake, and no one could come in.
Could they not kill the snake?
I don't know why. So she says for 30 days, for 3 months, she could not come near me.
So was the python wrapped around you every day, all day, 24/7?
24/7. So she says she didn't breastfeed me. She didn't come near me. And the whole village could come and just peep in. And then there was rumors around that this woman gave birth to a child and a snake. Now, I heard those rumors when I was growing up. It was the talk of the town in their community. You know, that child is a twin. They could say, he's a twin. He was born with a snake. But my mother says, no, she didn't give birth to a snake. The snake just came when she came back to the house. Now, I don't understand how this was done. So after 3 months, my father left. Now, he picked the 6 girls and left the home. She remained alone. And because of that, my mother got a mental breakdown. So she was not like a mad woman in the community. So she's left alone with a child, a demon child, with a brother who was living with her. Now the husband, my father, and the children left, so she's deserted. So by the time I'm 3 years old, the only person I know is my uncle and my mother, who has no attachment with me. Why? She's mentally disturbed. She always spend all her time alone in the bedroom. There's no way. So as a child, I didn't have any attachment with her. I didn't see my sisters. I didn't meet my father. The only person now I know is my uncle, the young brother to my mother, who was also, I don't know what happened. He was also addicted to alcohol. So he could drink and what. Now, so he tells me, I remember as the other three, when he was drinking his alcohol, he could give me, because that's the only thing he had. My mother did not breastfeed me. The husband had left, deserted her. And she tells me that the day my father left, and with my sisters, is the day the snake left also. So when he left, also it left. So she remained with this child, but now she was so hurt. She was so heartbroken. And then she got into a mental breakdown because of the husband leaving her. She's alone. And so as a child, I'm in that house with only my uncle. Like all the community, the relatives, the people in the community, no one comes to our home, because the talk of the community, the talk of the village is, in that house,
it's a snake.
There's a snake.
Yeah.
And there is a boy who was born. So
you had no connection with anyone else apart from your mother, who was mentally unstable, and your uncle who was, a drunkard who was struggling with alcohol addiction. And then you're 3 at this point.
Yeah.
Your earliest memories are around 3 and 4.
3 and 4. That's the memory I have.
And then something really tragic happened.
So